we start, would you do us a great favor? For those of you out in the far reaches of the hall, would you mind moving into the center? Where's my Bulgarian lady to translate that? Ah, you wonderful lady. Thank you.
You're welcome. Дами и господа, да помолим тези, които са седнали в периферията, да се преместят към центъра. Благодарим ви.
Stay safe, don't move. We'd like this to be a forum. We want you to contribute as much as we contribute. We're not just going to tell you things, we want to ask you things. So that's why it's very nice when you come in together. We can be one happy family in the middle of the room.
Уважаеми дами и господа, не искаме това да бъде просто конференция, искаме да бъде форум, в който ще обменяме мнения и ще имаме диалог, така че нека да го направим по-интерактивно. Благодарим.
And if you see a seat, if you see a seat that says reserved on it, you ignore that completely and sit on it.
Okay, I'm going to translate. Okay. Моля да имате предвид, че първите места на тях има табелка запазено, но се чувствайте свободни да седнете там, ако желаете.
Thank you. Chris, are you at 5 minutes or? Okay. Can I invite my colleagues up on the stage? Oh, you're going to invite them. I'm going to introduce you and then you can do that. Okay. We'll go and hide.
Hello again. I just want to say a few words before we begin with Mr. John Bell. Welcome back to the Second International Congress on World Civilization and Historic Roots. It's time to start our afternoon session. During the morning session, we heard of different tourism strategies, approaches, and initiatives for cultural and tourism development. It was highlighted that traveling is bringing people into contact with each other, fostering understanding between cultures, and providing cultural exchange between hosts and guests. And now, we'll have the opportunity to dive into concrete examples on how historic roots were connecting people, shaping their lives and places they lived, bringing our world closer together long before any other means of transportation and communication was available. It's time to introduce to you our first moderator for the next panel. You already saw him here. He brought you all together as a happy family, as you are. So, Mr. John Bell has been a journalist for prominent media for over 30 years, specializing in travel and transport. Starting with the BBC in London, he produced and reported for their travel and transport programs. John has edited the CNN on a variety of topics, the CNN International Hotspots Worldwide Travel Show, and also makes frequent appearances on BBC Radio and TV, where he is linked to BBC World Television. He has worked with the World Tourism Organization for 20 years, advising on marketing, media, aviation, crisis, and the Silk Road Initiative. He is a well-known figure in the travel industry. Mr. Bell, the stage is all yours.
How do I say thank you in Bulgarian?
Благодаря.
Say it again.
Благодаря.
That's what I meant to say to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's lovely to be here. And how are we after lunch? Oh, come on. Sorry? Full. Excellent. Excellent. You're full? Yes? Good. Good. How did you enjoy the music? Good. Have you been out? Yeah. Excellent again. Good. Are you planted there to say the excellent all the time? Good heavens above. How wonderful. Well, I am now, I'm so old, as you heard. I wish I'd crossed that part out. He's been a journalist for 35 years. As you will understand, I'm not 35 years old. I'm much older than that. And therefore, I am also sometimes a consultant. You know, tourism is full of consultants. You see them all, they appear all over when you have money, then the consultants appear. But you know the definition of a consultant? Is a man, yes, it has to be a man, who knows every single position in the Kama Sutra, but doesn't have a girlfriend. That's the problem with consultancies. But so this afternoon we are going to, I thought you'd like, I brought my magic bag here. Doesn't have very much in it, but it does have, you'll be pleased to know, somewhere, if I can open the right zip, it has somewhere, where's it gone? Oh dear. There we go. Yes, I hope it has somewhere, yes. Oh, it is. A guidebook to Bulgaria. How wonderful. Now, to be truthful, you need more guidebooks in Bulgaria. You haven't got enough. You need a Bratch, you need a much better Lonely Planet, you need a Rough Guide, you need all these things. Why? Not because people read guidebooks, it's because when you go in the shop, it's the best advertisement your country ever has. You look up at the shelf and you see Bulgaria, 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 Bulgaria. Unfortunately, at the moment, you don't. You see Bulgaria, stop. And then there is Bulgaria phrase book. That's what I need. And if you look at the way some other countries have been working, you'll go into the shop in London. There's one lovely shop in London, Stanford's, just sells travel books. Has 3 stories in the Covent Garden in London, just sells travel books. If you go and look at Montenegro, 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 Montenegro. If you look at Bosnia, 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 Bosnia. If you look at Bulgaria, Bulgaria, Bulgaria. It's a game you need to play. It's called free marketing. That's what we do. I'm a journalist, like my colleague here, and I'm sure he'll tell you this, that we are your free advertising. We have your editorial responsibility, so you can't tell me anything and I will print anything, but I am your way to free advertising for your country. Our colleague here, the Deputy Secretary General, comes from Colombia. You know, Colombia didn't have a terribly successful modern history. And how, therefore, has it become such a successful tourism destination? And the answer, a plan that worked with the media. So you'll understand, by working with the media, we can tell a complicated story. We can tell a small story, a big story, whatever story you like. And it doesn't cost you very much money. And that's, I think, will be supported by all our people who are coming to talk to us today, because they're coming to talk to us about, lo and behold, what do I find when I open my guidebook on Bulgaria? The first page is routes across Bulgaria. Now, you can't advertise routes across Bulgaria. You can't put it on the side of a bus. You can't have a 10-second television advertisement, which probably most of you in tourism will not be able to afford, on something like a route. It can only be interpreted by sensible tourism officers working with the media. We can tell a complicated story. We can walk a route. There are some wonderful new routes coming up in Europe now, particularly in Montenegro and down the Adriatic coast. So this afternoon, we have 4 very different routes to talk to you about. One here in Bulgaria. One in Italy. Well, it's not a route you can walk, is it? You need your swimming costume on. A route you can swim. Well, maybe use a boat. A very old established route in northern Spain, which came from pilgrimage. You know, pilgrimage is part of tourism. And particularly this country, that's, I think, something you could do a lot of work in. You have so many wonderful churches. And finally, a route that we're going to sing about later on, aren't we? Yes? Are we going to sing? Yeah, of course we are. Because we're going to talk to you about Route 66. You've heard about Route 66, have you? Yes? Yes? You've seen Disney films? Yes? I've done part of Route 66, and I went into a cafe, ordinary burger place. And this nice lady doing burgers and chips, and she said to me, wow, she said, thank you for coming here. Did you come because of the film? I said, what film? Film? And she said, yes. She said, Disney's Cars film. I said, what? She said, it's all based on Route 66. Don't you know that? No. And I said, well, what car are you? And she went, oh, I'm a Porsche. And she was. And if you go and see the film, there she is as a Porsche. She speaks the words right throughout. Now, 3 films of cars, 3 films of cars, whatever. So, we have pilgrimage, we have Disney, all on the same program. So let's get on with the program. It's been a great pleasure for me to come to be here. There were 2 nations in Europe I had not been to. Bulgaria was one, so now there's only 1 nation left. And it's a great pleasure for me to be here and be amongst you all. And I should tell you that we don't take questions in these sessions, okay? I come and ask you. So don't go to sleep at the back, all right? I should be asking questions in my best Bulgarian. What do you mean? Oh, I have cheat. I have somebody behind me translating. So that's how we're going to do it. We have these 4 presenters, and let's get on and introduce them in the way of a good talk show. So, firstly, I've got to introduce somebody who I haven't met, who is Nikolai Ovcharov. Is he with us? And he's here. Wow, you couldn't be more obviously with us, sir, than just there. And you're going to talk about Via Rodopica. Is that correct? Right, okay. Can we invite you to the stage, sir? And Nikolai is unfortunately got to leave us when you've made your presentation. So if I can invite you into the end chair here, sir. Now, next up this afternoon, we've got the Phoenicians route. That's where you've got to put your swimming costume on. Dr. Antonio Barone is joining us from Italy, of course. Lovely, love to see you. Now, I talked about a route that originally related more to pilgrimage than routes, really. And that's, we've got here to talk about the St. James route, is Miss Maria Nava Castro, who's the Director of Tourism of Junta de Galicia, the Galician Tourist Board. Welcome, welcome. And lastly, and no means least, we have Mr. Aaron Marr, who's the Superintendent of the National Trails Intermountain Region, US National Park Service, who's here, of course, a big cheer to talk about Route 66. So, sir, we didn't have a chance to chat before. You're speaking in Bulgarian, which is, as you're Bulgarian, is totally acceptable. It's very kind of you to allow us to come to your country and speak English. So, may I get you to introduce your subject?
I'm university lecturer, and this is my favorite position, more or less. Having said that, I kept thinking about the words of Mr. Bell. He has been introduced to us as a travel journalist and writer. This is applicable to me, although I'm a professional archaeologist. But 15 years ago, I was academic scientist. And as described in the movies, a man buried in the books, making archaeological, participating in archaeological activities and writing books. At that time, I was much younger. I was 47, 48. Now I'm 60 something. And I asked myself the question, why we, the Bulgarians, having such a fantastic historical heritage, are not able to present it appropriately in front of the rest of the world. This was something that I was concerned about for a long time. That's why I started dealing with things that go beyond the scope of academic activities. And at that time, this was the beginning of the Bulgarian cultural-historical tourism development. There is nothing to wonder about that, having in mind that Bulgaria is among the 3 European countries which have the biggest number of historical sites. The other 2 are well known, Italy and Greece. But during the years, Greece and Italy, they had managed to do a lot with that regard. We all know about the Italian cultural tourism. We all know about sightseeing in Greece. We know about their monuments. And about the Bulgarian historical sites, a few people knew. There are objective reasons for that. Bulgaria was behind the so-called Iron Curtain for a long time. Until 1989, in practice, in Bulgaria, we couldn't have classical tourism of any nature. We had groups from the former Soviet Union. We had tourist groups from other socialist countries, from Poland, from Czechia, from East Germany. But they usually traveled to the Black Sea coast, and this was their usual destination. Even the mountain tourism was not developed in Bulgaria at that time. Irrespective of that, in communist or socialist Bulgaria, some attempts were made to develop the cultural and historical tourism. I have missed to say that in Bulgaria we have more than 43,000 archaeological monuments, and they do not exhaust everything that we know about the history of Bulgaria. At that period of time, as I have told you, attempts were made, especially around this special date of celebration, celebrating the 1,300 years since the foundation of the Bulgarian state. And the old capitals of Bulgaria, Pliska, Preslav, they were restored. But behind the Iron Curtain, it was not possible to develop real tourism. In 1989, we had this transition, and of course, we experienced associated problems. As any transition period, Bulgaria fell into a situation when things needed adjustment. We were talking about the 90s when we had we went through a financial crisis, economic crisis. We experienced the transition from the state economy to the private sector economy, and it was very difficult to talk about and to do something with regard to development of real tourism. The archaeologists were not well off at that time. We were surviving. The big change took place in between the threshold between the old and the new millennium. I am talking about 1997, 2001, when finally reforms were carried out. And in the beginning of the new millennium, this was felt. The currency was stabilized, the state itself was stabilized, and from this point onward, we started breathing more freely. And different developments in different sectors of economy were carried out, inclusive of the tourism. At that time, we made a big step forward in the field of archaeology. Not that we hadn't have achievements before, but at the beginning of the 21st century, it was possible to present these achievements using the democratic media. And on the other hand, the tour operators and everybody dealing with tourism, they started talking about cultural tourism. I'm talking now about that, and I'm not kidding. Why? Because in the year 2002, I was in the Rhodopian region, and I was talking about the fact that they will earn money not based on the mining activities, which are typical for this region, but based on the income or revenues from tourism. And they didn't believe me at that time, but now it is happening more or less. This has been a long process, and I'm trying to present it to you in a quite concise manner. The big contributions of the archaeologists should be mentioned. They discovered many artifacts, and they managed to provoke interest not only within the Bulgarian society, but also within many other people elsewhere. Mr. Kitov was a friend of mine and a colleague of mine, and he fell upon very interesting tombs from these ancient times in Starosel, in the Valley of the Kings near the city of Kazanlak, the tomb of Alexander with wall paintings, then gold treasuries were also discovered. Ivan Stoyanov, Ivan Christov, they discovered the first Thracian residence. I have my modest contribution with my studies in the mid-Rhodopian region and the eastern part of the Rhodopian region, and the so-called Perperikon tattoo was these monuments, these sites were discovered. Based on these discoveries, we started shaping our image. What is it about when we talk about cultural-historical tourism? Not only archaeology is included or involved. What we are talking now is ecotourism, historical, cultural tourism, spa. These are branches of the tourism industry. But if you go to another country, somewhere else, on the other end of the world, he or she wants to see everything and to taste everything. We do not need to mention that. But more or less, I can say, and quite frankly, that archaeology, I'm talking specifically about Bulgaria, this is the driving force behind the whole set of processes, just based on the fact that we have such monuments. Poland, they do not have as many as we have. Other things are the driving force behind the tourism. And so we created the prerequisites, but from that point onward, we had to arrive at a point of time when we will channelize all these processes and shape and offer a tourist product. Yeah, and money is needed for that. Promotional efforts and activities are needed for that. It was not easy to get rid of the old stuff of Balkan tourists from the old times because they had their fixed ideas of doing things. But it was important to be mentioned that slowly, although slowly, things started to develop, and the European programs proved to be quite helpful, because during this period of transition, the Bulgarian state didn't have as much financial resources as Turkey, for example. They are putting a lot of money, making investments in the whole economy, inclusive of the tourism sector. But I'm talking here about the pre-accession funds under the FAR program, 2005-2006, this period. And this was the beginning. Then we had a series of other programs enabling Bulgaria to put more investments into the tourism sector. And this was the kind of thing that was needed for breathing freely, as I have told you. And if there would be anybody telling you that the European funds are stolen, or you shouldn't believe that. If you go out, you will see the Largo of Sofia, you will see the tombs under the Saint Sofia Church, and many other sites for which European money has been used. We know that we had to overcome a big resistance at that time to be able to achieve that. With all these projects that are still going on, we are waiting for the biggest program under Measure 6.1, which will be the final point of all the developments in the cultural tourism. There we will have 10 million leva per site. This is a huge amount of money, but this has happened in one way or another. Naturally, we needed to undertake promotion of the monuments. I'm talking about this 15-year period, and you know that when we had to do something, we had to rely on the archaeologists. We didn't rely on the support of the state, but we managed to do what was intended. We managed to make it such that our monuments became more visible and more popular. I'm talking about the last 7-8 years. I'm talking about the period before the last 7-8 years, because for this latest, most recent 7-8 years, the state was providing all types of support for the development of tourism, inclusive of financial support. You know that in many countries where they have that many monuments, the line ministry is also involved. And so, in order that I will not take more time than has been planned on, I will present to you my presentation, and the title is Via Rhodopica. And as you have heard from me, I have been interested in this region, in the Rhodopian region, this destination, this route, but also this is the only actually operating route in Bulgaria of the historical cultural tourism. I know I appeal to you to understand me correctly. Maybe there will be an opponent among you saying, well, what about Veliko Trnovo? Because there we have a kind of a cluster of historical and cultural sites. But in Veliko Trnovo region, ever since the socialist period, the presence of tourists has been guaranteed. Now, for example, all the ships that all these cruise tourists coming to Bulgaria, they usually go inland, and they go to the first place they go to is Veliko Trnovo. Also, but we have other places which are nearer to the Danube River or nearer to the Black Sea, and they do not go that often to them. Because of some underdevelopments. The example of the Rhodopian region is being followed by other regions, other areas. But since there are other people besides Bulgarians in this hall, I would rather say that Rhodopian Mountain, they're closer to the Bulgarian-Greece border. It is rich of natural sites, and it was called the Holy Mountain in the past, and this is the case. We have many different and very interesting sites. Talking about the first decade of the new millennium, my team and myself, we discovered so-called iconic monuments, which enabled us to set up this Rhodopic. Perpericom is still under process of further discovery. We have been searching for, and we found the treasure of Thracian Dionysus. He has been mentioned by Herodot. And what is important to be said about him, that people came to the oracle there, to Alexander the Great, Octavian August. He understood that he will become an emperor there, in this temple. This is what the ancient authors have told us. In this same region, we have discovered the only known temple of Orpheus. Near Momchilgrad. This is a unique temple, and during the Hellenistic period, 3rd, 4th century, a temple was erected. It is quite well preserved, and we have managed to fall upon it and to discover it. The long sought for cave, the temple of the mother goddess mother of the Thracians. I will not be able to tell you all about all our discoveries, but they put the foundation of the Via Rhodopica. I have informed my students at the university that although each monument is quite nice looking and interesting, in order to make a route we need more to be added to the cluster. This happened in this particular case through the connection of these sites with other neighboring sites. I'm talking about the Alexander tomb in the region of Haskovo. This is east from Kırjeli, and I'm talking about the wonderful ethnographic center in Zlatograd. This destination is having 100-120 kilometers length, but it is saturated with many sites and many monuments. Just a month ago, we fell upon construction from Mykenä period, and this was quite interesting. We are adding new details to this route. Maybe you know the following, that irrespective of the fact how nice looking, how interesting the monuments are, if legends are not told about them, if not historical facts are pointed out about them, this route will not be successful. This is what we have attempted to do, and we have been successful. As of today, along this destination, my colleague can confirm that, but according to our data, though, we have people visiting or traveling along this route in great number in this section, especially in this section between Kırjeli and Zlatograd. And what is even more interesting, people are coming not for 1 day stay, they are coming for 3, 4, 7 days stay, which is very important to be mentioned. In order to have sustainable development of a region, we need to have a longer stay of the tourists. If they come only for half a day or 1 day, this is not enough. And this happened along this route. And something which is important, and it is related to our neighbor to the south, Greece. In 2008, 2009, several new roads were opened between Bulgaria and Greece in the Rhodopian region. This enables us only within an area of 50-60 kilometers to have a road leading to the Greek Sea. All people from the neighboring country, they cross Bulgaria to go to the island of Tassos and to Aegean Sea. Something else which is typical for North Greece and still underdeveloped. You have to also know that there are areas in Greece that are much ahead of the others. But in north of Greece, they need to do more. And they have fantastic monuments there. We have two antique cities, ancient cities, Greek cities, and Maronea. And I will tell you just one name. Demokrit originates from this region. And the Greek monuments, the Greek artifacts, they have to be included and to become a part of one route together with the Bulgarian monuments. The distances are short, the borders are crossed easily. Of course, with the exception of the summer period when we had many people going to Greece and to the Bulgarian Black Sea coast for to make use of the beach and the sun. But you know how things should happen. This example was followed and is being followed by other parts of Bulgaria. I will tell you about a few such examples. Via Pontica, as you know, we are talking about the sea route, including our cities on the Black Sea coastline. The Valley of the Thracian Kings between Kazanluk and Sarusel, where, as I have mentioned, we have so many tombs discovered and European money used for that. To the second or third century before Christ. And I'm trying myself to develop another destination in the northeastern part of Bulgaria. We have fantastic opportunities with that regard there, Razgrad, Shumen, and within very short distances, we have the first Bulgarian capitals, Plisk and Preslav, the Mother Horseman, and there are monuments that are under the protection of UNESCO. And of course, Dimizion is the antique city that I'm studying during the most recent period. Of course, this cannot happen overnight, but with the support of the state, and this is very important to be mentioned, that we can rely on the support of the state. We have had the support of the state ever since the beginning of the new period. Also, relying on the support of the local self-government of the municipalities, I think that the Bulgarian historical and cultural tourism has no alternative and definitely has a future. The Bulgarian historical-cultural tourism will lead to the following: will bring to Bulgaria many visitors, many tourists, and it is not by accident that I go back to the words of Mr. Bell, who is a travel journalist. Especially during the winter season, I travel to other countries in the world. Tomorrow, for example, I am following the road of the mice in Mexico, in Guatemala and Honduras. I will stay there for a month. I want to see how other people in other countries are building their cultural-historical tourism. Thank you.
Every May-June, when all the rosebuds blossom, comes the time for one of the biggest festivities, worshipping one of the most divine gifts of nature, the rose. Welcome to Bulgaria. The world has known many kinds of roses, but there is only one of its kind, known for its perfection, combining beauty and unmistakable fragrance, the Rosa Damascena. And there is only one valley that has preserved the century-old rose-picking tradition and still produces the legendary Bulgarian rose oil. The divine scent of queens and kings. And every single year, a new queen of the rose is crowned to reign over beauty and elegance. Be part of the ritual, as thousands of others already did. The Valley of Roses. The Valley of Roses, also known as the Valley of the Thracian Kings. It hides the mystery of the greatest warriors of ancient times, as Homer himself calls the Thracians, the mythical ancestors of the modern Bulgarians, the descendants of Orpheus in the midst of the Odry's kingdom, obscured by myths and legends. The stories of life and afterlife come to life if one trusts his own senses. But there is this sacred hill near Kazanluk called Buzograd, where on the very top of it is the Megalith Temple, where the Thracians worshipped the great mother goddess and her son, husband, and Rex, the sun. Dare to discover the Thracian code of eternity. Bulgaria, a discovery to share.
That reminds me, when I left, no, actually it wasn't when I left, it was far too early in the morning, but the night before I left, my wife said, "Where are you going to?" I said, "Bulgaria." She said, "Rosewater, please." You know, that means that British people know three things about Bulgaria. They know the coast, they know the skiing, and they know Rosewater. But I'm not so sure that British people know much more about Bulgaria than that. And I think that's a challenge for people in Bulgarian tourism, which is why the development of routes is really so important. Because routes get you out of what we call the honeypots, the place that attracts oil visitors. And it spreads the benefit of tourism throughout the country. And if you don't spread the benefit of tourism throughout the country, then you have complaints from people saying, look, we don't benefit from these people, so why should we bother with these people? So I think it's this route development that we've seen over the last few years is absolutely vital. So we now go from the Valley of the Kings, the Valley of the Roses, to where? Water? How can you have a route on water? Really? Well, Antonio Barone, he will tell us how you can have a route on water.
Morning and evening. The sea is probably the biggest route of the world. And in my work with the Phoenicians roots, I worked about this big heritage. You know that there is more heritage under the sea than in the land, but we cannot to go all the people under the sea. So we prefer to speak about, I prefer to stay here. We speak about the Mediterranean. We speak about the ancient civilization of the Mediterranean, especially considering that for the ancient civilization, Mediterranean was not a border, was a bridge, was a link between the civilization that was around. So this is for us a lesson to understand what it means to live today in the Mediterranean. Mediterranean was everything a koine, a community. So it was a market, because we want to realize something that can create a development for the places that are around the routes. The Phoenicians was merchants. As the Silk Route is the motivation that those two routes are in the attention of the World Tourism Organization. Silk Route for the big program, Phoenician Route for a core working group. At the same time, we are collaborating with the Silk Route everywhere to develop links, to develop activities. But we think that Phoenicians and Greek and the Romans were the civilization that give us the Mediterranean dialect. Olive oil, salt, wine, all the products that we use today, that are our economy today, arrive in the Mediterranean by those civilizations. So what means ancient civilization? What means our life? Means our present. The past begin present for us. Another element very important of the Phoenicians was the alphabet. They invented the alphabet, they give the alphabet to the Greek civilization, then to the Latin and so on. Other element of our work is the base of this work is the creation in 2003 an international confederation that work about it in the field of the Council of Europe program of the cultural roots. So we study together our common past can begin our present. Is as a network of roots, because working in many civilizations, we have many places and many themes to describe. Especially, this is the list of the Council of Europe program, 33 certified itineraries, recognized and certified. The first is Santiago de Compostela that follow my presentation. And this is an heritage because the Council of Europe have a methodology that we use to develop this activity. Our reflection was we have an heritage, how we can transmit the message of this heritage to all the people, not only for people that know heritage, know culture, and can understand better this place, but we want to realize what is the goal of the Council of Europe. You can consider our network as a laboratory where we can present this heritage and can develop this activity. But to explain better which is the heritage that we manage, I have a little video that I want to show you. As you can see, please stop. As you can see, there is heritage, but it's also people. Because tourists today visit places where are people, not only stones. The heritage have to speak with by the people that live today around to the other people that arrive. It's not business to business, but people to people. In this case, the World Tourism Organization give us another effort to develop this activity for sectors. So I present this strategy. This is a list of the enlarged partial agreements. First of all, a reflection, cultural roots, like method to discover and enhance the cultural heritage of a territory in an international perspective, both tangible and intangible heritage. Have you seen the heritage that we can manage? Not only heritage, monumental heritage, but also know-how. All the things that we saw in the video are ancient know-how that is our heritage of the ancient civilization. But at the same time, they are facilitator of sustainable development and promotion of cultural diversity in the construction of a peaceful democratic society. We have to talk about today how the ancient heritage can help us to understand better. The ancient civilization was around the Mediterranean, was around the sea, and used the sea to exchange. So we cannot create today a border that can limit this possibility to exchange activities and to create really a good weather. To cross boundaries and discover the other culture and communities, but also a foundation to create a new common culture and new shared identities. Is a territorial mediation tool between public and private sector, between a local and global, is the global approach, between operators and the market, from destination tourism to motivation tourism. This is our goal, to create by the experience, by the responsible tourism, slow tourism, sustainable, creative tourism. Bulgaria have recently did a specific workshop about creative tourism, community tourism, where the millennials, the new target that we are following, can begin protagonist, and civil tourism, another sector that we want to involve and improve everywhere. I remember before that in 2016, UNWTO organized this core working group in collaboration with the Lebanon Ministry of Tourism, European Institute of Cultural Roots. Some added value of the cultural route, transnational cooperation. We work only at the international level, shared strategies, sustainable responsible tourism, civil society involvement, discover unknown destinations, innovation and creativity, common labels, local development by integrated approach. The key of this work is the Faro Convention. The Faro Convention is a revolution because it demonstrates that the local community can manage their heritage, can discover their heritage, can study a strategy for each territory that can begin elements fundamental to develop the place, from the product to the cultural process. But at the same time are people. You can see some images. The image on the right is Ibiza. Ibiza is one of the members of the Phoenician route. Ibiza and Rimini, two leisure places, discover that cultural tourism is the future for the tourism. So they are working to create a new product in these places to work with the cultural tourism. But Phoenician's route is a cultural route based in intercultural Mediterranean dialogue. So our work is to create everywhere, at all levels, dialogue. Those are the ancient roots. Phoenicians, because the Phoenicians were one of the most ancient civilizations, can to be Greek, Roman, and so on. But the strategy is fundamental for us. You can see many strategies with different places. Lebanon are working with the Cyprus and Greece to create only one strategy for eastern part. We are working in Portugal, Spain, and Morocco to create another. In the center Mediterranean area, for each area there is a strategy. We are a strategy, for example, in the Sardinia region, and the European Union decided that we are one of the strategies of the Adriatic-Ionian area, so the Balkans. But at the same time, the members of the International Confederation, in this moment, we are 11 countries involved with many networks, networks that represent the territories, activities, young private sector, or organizations that work at international level as the International Organization of Social Tourism. This is the product of this work, many routes. depend the local civilization, the local product to manage with the same standard, the same product at an international level. It means that the people that arrive in the finishing route stay for 10, 15 years because they appreciate the work and want to discover other places with the different identity but the same standards. At the same time, it's a cultural and tourist quality system. We are studying an only brand the quality of definitions route for the hotels and the accommodation, for example. It's a cooperation level between small medium enterprises, especially small medium enterprises, volunteers, international tourist market, and especially are working about the new kind of works in tourism. We have a network of museums, the MEMUNET, in collaboration with HICOM, with many Mediterranean museums involved to exchange experience and to create together new products. We have a network of schools in the Mediterranean that organize school tourism. A new version is interculturality travels, twinnings. They discover the other countries by the help of their colleague of the same age. At the same time, network of tour operators, more than 200, that collaborate with us, travel bloggers, new kind of communication. This is the schema, the model of our work. There is a triangle between heritage, guests, and facilitators. We call facilitators all the people that collaborate in the single territory to develop those activities, from the storytelling to the story doing. We want the people manage the heritage, manage the tradition, the know-how of the people, the food. They have to learn more about every place to understand more about the identity of the place. We have a network of international universities that collaborate with us, that develop with us many strategies and new versions of the activities. For example, this is an Erasmus project for a new professional in tourism, the facilitator, territorial facilitator, that is a mix of a tour guide and a local agent to development. So this is an example of our activity. And this is a result of this work. We have created some years ago a strategy about the smart ways, little places, little ways where we applied all the methodology that I saw before. In the middle, there are the interpretation centers that present definition, route, and the local identity. It's a strategy bike-friendly because the future of cultural tourism is by bike, sustainable, and accessibility by HICOM. At the same time, some models of the interpretation center, those are some meeting points between travelers and communities, and at the same time, the possibility to create creative incubators for youngs that want to develop new job in this field. Some example of communication, Spanish television, Italian magazine, and so on. And last but not the least, the ICT education. We are working to create a virtual Mediterranean museum for the network MEMUNET, for our museums, that can be presented everywhere. So I agree with the problem that the ICT can begin, but this is for the virtual tourism. In our case, virtual tourism is the tool to promote the places because not all the people know the places. And this is an example. We are working for a video game that can present our heritage, the places, the heritage of the museums, the name of the places in the world. We think that on May we can have 20 million followers. It means that if I have a little museum in a little place, 20 million people know where is the place and what is this museum. So this is the way to promote our heritage. If you have want more information about, you have all our information. We are very active on social way. In this moment, we are in line with the 2,000 people in the Mediterranean in direct with this meeting. And so there are many informations about our work. Thank you very much.
Много благодаря, Антонио. Може ли да ни разкажете малко повече за тази видеоигра? Много ми беше интересно. Какво всъщност сте направили? Дали сте направили договор с една такава фирма, която е създала видеоиграта, или какво се е случило? Това е всъщност една игра, която е за общо взето млади хора и обявихме всъщност едно състезание между фирмите и на практика излъчихме победител. Не е скъпа тази игра. Мога ли сега да поговоря с вас, госпожо министър? Защото повечето от хората в тази стая знаят, че идвате от Афганистан. И сега в вашата държава може би има повече културни паметници от много други места по света.
And at the end of the session, I brought a short video of our national museum and the golden pieces, that it is a kind of mobile museum. Now it is in China, and we had this mobile museum before in Australia, in Japan, and so many countries. And I hope that you can enjoy from this video. And of course, we are proud to our 5,000-year culture.
I think we should give a clap to it again. Absolutely, absolutely. For you, because is this you? Yeah. Oh well, go on then. Fire away.
In the heart of Central Asia is an ancient land. For thousands of years, home to one of the most traveled highways of the world, the Silk Road. At its crossroads, Afghanistan. It was the nexus of ideas and trade between East and West, a land that lured travelers from afar. Chinese pilgrim Xuanzang described its fertile valleys and giant Buddhist statues. Venetian explorer Marco Polo wrote of a land rich with gold and gems. It was battled over by powerful conquerors, from Alexander the Great to Genghis Khan. It gave rise to amazing civilizations and a kaleidoscope of people and cultures.
That is what we call in the business a trailer. If you're very, very lucky and you stay to the very end of the session, then you get to see the whole film. And I'm looking forward to it. But how wonderful that with the problems that we all know your country faces, that you can come here, and we all have great respect for you for doing that, and consider the thought that one day we could have a tourist route through Afghanistan like we used to have. Yeah?
We have a very good number of tourists now in Bamyan, because Bamyan is the city that 100% safe for security issue, and the two big statues of Buddha and Bande Amir, that it is made from 7 big lake of water. It is in Bamyan. And so many people from Asian countries, from even I saw some tourists from Canada, from London, they come to this city and they are enjoying from the nature of this city.
Thank you very much indeed for that word of optimism. Thank you. And now we move on. We talked there about Buddhist statues. Where you come from in Santiago, you had lots of statues. Yeah? Yes. But of course, here was a route developed 500 years ago. 1,200 years ago. Wow. So it's not one of these modern things with video games. Oh, no. So please, come and talk us about the route of St. James.
Okay, thank you. As Director of Tourism in Galicia, it's a privilege to participate in this Congress and this round table. From Galicia, I'll talk about the Camino de Santiago. Galicia is a region in the northwest of Spain. It has a population of 2.7 million inhabitants. The Camino de Santiago has put us on the map in many countries. For every 10 pilgrims we receive, 6 come from outside Spain. They come from Bulgaria, the United States, Korea, Niger, etc. And I could go on until I reach almost 180 nations. As undeniable success that I'll briefly analyze its evolution, the management model we foster from the government of Galicia, and how the Camino de Santiago is having a repercussion on our economy and our territory. The Camino de Santiago has been alive for almost 1,200 years and has developed through a solid historic and cultural base. Galicia was consolidated as an international pilgrimage route between the 11th and 13th centuries. This was the golden era of pilgrimages when from France, Italy, Central and Eastern Europe, England, Germany, and of course all of Hispania, they arrived on foot, on horseback, or by ship. All were assisted by a network of hospitals founded by monarchs and noble persons of the cities and the monks that received the pilgrims in these monasteries. A network of assistance originated around the Camino de Santiago thanks to public works and buildings were built to assist the pilgrimage. Also, creation of towns was completed and a collective culture has been created centered on this great route. We can be assured that Galicia couldn't be understood without the Camino de Santiago, declared by the European Council as first cultural route of Europe in 1987. Barely 6 years later, it was recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, a distinction that was expanded in 2015 to the northern routes. That same year, it received the recognition as ambassador of the Spain brand. These distinctions contributed to the recovery and growth of the Camino de Santiago in a great way. In the process, the Galician people and the government of Galicia have been very involved in a movement on all levels, from public administrations, private sector, academic area, social collectives, or even the church. In 2015, we started up the master plan of the Camino de Santiago with a budget of 56 million euro, as the Camino is a phenomenon that greatly surpasses its touristic nature, and we take into account to a high degree its spiritual, religious, historic, and cultural dimensions. It's enabling us to face the present and the future of pilgrimage. This master plan has 8 lines of simultaneous work, which we implement in the 140 municipalities that the Camino de Santiago crosses, a third of the total area of our region, with a calendar of actions that prioritizes every route each year. We already work in 900 kilometers of the 6 routes, and for the next holy year of 2021, we'll continue our work with this, and we also are in charge of maintenance, conditioning, improvement, and signs posting of the way. And of course, spreading, promotion, permanent improvement of welcoming to pilgrims. We've had a network of public hostels since 1993. We have a total 70 establishments. We carry out improvements in already existing ones, and we adapt them for persons with disabilities or reduced mobility. In some, we achieve total accessibility besides tactile signs posting. We promote training of those responsible for the hostels and the hostel volunteers. With the collaboration of the Jacobean Association, over 300 associations worldwide, we reinforce welcoming pilgrims with volunteers that make the stay more gratifying, sharing experiences in their original languages, and aiding understanding with the rest of the walkers. In regards to the cultural and spiritual offering, we have agreements with the church for opening of temples and cultural programs, music, theater, dance, or magic, among other artistic expressions in the Jacobean route. Exhibitions tour the whole world, such as the Way to Santiago in Boston, etc. We travel to specialized trade fairs. Some of the writers who walk the route have portrayed their experiences in bestsellers such as Paulo Coelho with his book, The Pilgrim, and also the Korean author Kim Hyo-sun with her 3 books about the route of the German humorist and author Harpe Kerkeling, author of I'm Off for a Bit Then, and films such as The Way, starring Martin Sheen, were landmarks. Thanks to this, many Americans undertook the way. We work in the realm of academics with the chair of the Camino de Santiago in collaboration with the University and the Cathedral of Santiago, seminars, courses, and congresses, and we foster research with grants and aid. Another key role played is in that of the International Committee of Experts of the Camino de Santiago, the consultant organism of the regional government since 1993 in Jacobean matters. Safety is fundamental for us and for the pilgrims. For this reason, we work in collaboration with other administrations in order to eliminate dangerous crossing, as well as improvement and uniformity of signs posting. We create awareness in the population with recommendations and distribution of reflective vests and backpack covers to enable better visibility in sections close to roads. In collaboration with the police, we publish an emergency guide with practical advices and protective measures for emergencies. The master plan includes steps taken both for conservation and improvement of the natural environment and landscaping, as well as integral management of waste products, water or energy, planting of native species, inventories of species with their cataloging and protection, availability of containers and waste bins, of the system of fountains with drinkable water every 20 kilometers, complete this effort to make the Camino a more welcoming, hospitable way. This plan is enabling us to face the future, which has a growing internationalization and the progressive increase in pilgrims who are spread more and more across all the routes. During the holy year of 1993, Galicia received nearly 99,000 pilgrims, 10 times more than 1992. This year, we already surpassed the historic figure of 300,000 pilgrims. Thus, the way is consolidated as a universal symbol because each pilgrim has to walk around more than 100 kilometers on foot. Nowadays, the star role that the French Camino has is indisputable, as also is the distribution of pilgrims across the rest of the routes. In 2017, this figure was 60%, 10 points less than, for example, 2013, in regards to the rest of the routes. Outstanding routes are the Portuguese Camino and Fisterra, the second most towered, and the rest of the routes. This distribution enables the Jacobean tradition and its benefits to be experienced in many municipalities of the 4 provinces and fosters the cultural, financial, and social development of our region. This year, we've been able to confirm and quantify by means of a study the social economic impact of the Camino de Santiago, an in-depth report done in collaboration with the University of Santiago de Compostela, which is becoming a powerful tool in order to improve government and management of the Camino de Santiago for the holy year 2021. Although the financial contribution by the pilgrims is modest, is 2.3% of touristic expenditure in Galicia, its financial impact is very important from a qualitative point of view. The expenditure of the pilgrim is the same financial impact as that of 3 national tourists, as they carry out a longer average stay and because of the multiplier effect of their spending. For every euro spent by a pilgrim, up to 18% more employment is generated than that of an average tourist. What is due to? The consumption of the pilgrim is notably that of expenditure in goods and services that are more employment intensive, such as meals and beverages. Other important fact has to do with the touristic sector itself. Between 2009 and 2017, in Galicia, over 5,000 accommodations were created. Of these, 30% were in the French Camino. We also wanted to know that the residents' perception was their global valorization is very positive. Over 80% of Galician citizens that live in towns on the way of St. James consider that the benefits of the Camino for the municipality are greater than the costs. Over 90% view positive economic impact from the Camino de Santiago, which is perceived as an opportunity. The residents also appreciate a positive cultural impact, above all in aspects related to the restoration and improvement of historic heritage. Besides, 75% Galician like the presence of pilgrims. And what do the thousands of pilgrims that tour Galicia every day think? Their satisfaction is extremely high. For 64% is greater or much greater than expected. 98.6% would recommend other people to do the Camino. 36% were repeating the experience when polled, and at that point, 86% had decided or were considered doing another route in the future. And a final fact, 83% assure that in the future, they'd return to Galicia as a tourist. And we also analyzed the affluence of pilgrims, load capacity, different occupation indexes. The conclusion is that it's not possible to speak of overcrowding of the Camino de Santiago, although there are peaks of affluence in notable stages. In no case can we consider there is overcrowding. Pilgrims are not distributed in a uniform way throughout the year. There are temporal fluctuations that are relevant and different from those that exist in traditional touristic activities, as the high season lasts almost 7 months. These are facts that speak about a reality in which Galicia is a leading role player and which is made possible by its citizens. From the government, we want to continue working to improve pilgrimage, become an international landmark in management and promotion. Having responsible and committed tourism is our permanent objective, and that's why we order this work. Thanks to this work, we'll be able to continue making the correct decisions in governing the Jacobean route. In fact, All of this preparation will be visible in the next Holy Year 2021. We've been working on it since 2015 with the master plan of the Camino de Santiago. We also have coordination instruments with different administrations, and we hope that it will be a very inclusive event. For example, we've just launched for the first time an open bid for projects called You Are Xacobeo, so that citizens and businesses can send us their proposals of interest. These are just a few of the steps we are taking, and that prove we continue working for a Camino de Santiago be sustainable in the present and in the future. Thank you for your interest, and I am available to answer after. I invite you to get to know the Camino de Santiago in this video, can be seen in the Cervantes Institute in Chicago. Thank you very much. Maria? No?
Thank you, Marie. Do we have you have a video? Do we have video lined up? Okay, let's go. Thank you very much indeed. I'm actually rather pleased that we've got the videos are really rather nice, except the last shot in your video just now. Did you see it? That great thing from the ceiling? You try filming that. I nearly killed me. But you raised such a nice. You raised A, but you're not my students, so I can't say that was the best example of research in tourism that I've seen for a long time. Research. You can't just have the route. You can't just say, oh, we're going to have a route from A to B to C to D to E. You can't do it. It involves so many other things. Number one, where do you stay on the route? Number two, how do you get to the route? I was doing a mental calculation while you were speaking, and I think there are 6 airports along the north of Spain. 6. Whereas 20 years ago, I could not have flown from London to Spain. Now there are 20 flights a day at least, just to northern Spain, out of the airports around London. That access to start the route is absolutely vital. Can I just add something else? Oh, do you still get the free meal at the end? Now, word has it. Is it? Now, come on. You tell everybody what the free meal is.
In the Parador of the Santiago de Compostela, the director invites the pilgrims in the end of the Camino to have a meal in the best hotel in Galicia.
How many a day? 100?
One.
Just one meal a day?
One meal.
Doesn't sound.
It's free.
So there you are. You have to get in early for that. One meal a day. While I'm standing up here, and before we go to something completely different, if you're really interested in route development, can I suggest you have a look at Via Dinarica? Via Dinarica, an amazing route developed that goes from Italy down to Greece through 7 different countries. And if you look at viadinarica.com, I'm not going to tell you about it, but if you want to see how you can develop a route across border, 6 borders route, it's an extremely good idea, example. And also UNESCO, our colleagues in UNESCO released about 6 weeks ago World Heritage Journeys, which are trans-border suggested routes throughout Europe, linking World Heritage sites. They say, what's the use of having all these World Heritage sites if we can't link them together for the visitor? Very nice idea, quite difficult to put in. Has excellent research done by me. And I would, again, another website to go and have a look at. Now, finally, I can turn to something different. And I can ask a question I've been wanting to ask you for quite a long time since I met you all that time ago, about 12 hours ago, Aaron. What on earth has the US National Park Service got to do with Route 66?
Thanks, John. I assume that's a segue into my talk, so I'm just going to start talking immediately. And I do want to thank the organizers for putting me on as the last speaker after lunch and before dinner, so I'm going to try and keep you here as long as possible. And I also have about 10 minutes to present a 20-minute talk, 25-minute talk. I won't show a video, so, okay, all right. Well, thanks everybody for sticking around, for being here for the last talk of the afternoon. And you can see the title of my talk there, and I talk about National Historic Trails and Route 66. And in fact, I'm the superintendent for most of the National Historic Trails, 9 of 19 National Historic Trails in the United States. And the United States, we're a very young country, and transportation and travel and movement over the landscape is very important in our history. And so we recognize the importance of trails. We recognize the importance of corridors, historic corridors. And in fact, we have a national trail system that recognizes nationally significant historical movements or events over the landscape. And those are designated by our Congress as National Historic Trails. Now, Route 66 isn't one of them yet, but there's currently a piece of legislation in Congress to create Route 66 as a National Historic Trail. Now, as I mentioned, I administer 9 National Historic Trails, and I'm very proud of every single one of them. The Pony Express National Historic Trail, the California National Historic Trail, the Trail of Tears, the Camino Real, the Tierra Adentro National Historic Trail, which began in Mexico City and is now the 3rd historic route that is nominated and is listed in UNESCO's list of World Heritage Routes, which includes, of course, the road Santiago de Compostela. But when I say that, nobody wants to talk about that. What they want to talk about is Route 66. So I'm quite used to giving a talk about all of our trails, and then people ask, well, what about Route 66? Is Route 66 part of the system? So it becomes an important part of America's understanding. Let me make sure I can operate this correctly. There we go. So what I'm going to talk about is Route 66, but I'm going to kind of shift the focus a little bit here because Route 66 is a very tangible resource. It has many intangibles associated with it. The communities along it are very important, and the interaction people have in traveling along the trail, along the road, is very important. But it is a very specific, tangible historical resource. And as you see there, it began in Chicago. This is an encapsulated map, but I hope you can make out what you're seeing here. It goes from Chicago and kind of bends across the southwestern part of the United States to California. And you see a selection of the resources there, which I'll talk more about in depth during the course of the conversation. But you get the sense there of what Route 66 is. It's a historic highway, and it's very limited in its scope. Its geographic scope is limited in terms of spatially beyond the road itself, and all the different transportation-related resources associated. So what is Route 66? Well, it was established in 1926 as part of the first federal highway system. So thank you, John, for not getting on me so much for being such a modern resource. But this certainly is much different than what we've been talking about during the course of the presentations. Our route does not go back thousands of years. It goes back to 1926. So it really is looking at 20th century America. What made it important? Well, it was the shortest all-weather highway connecting industrial Midwest to the burgeoning West Coast. It's 2,400 miles long, and 85% of it, approximately, is still drivable. And for those who are more adventurous, most of that remaining 50%, 15%, you can get out and hike on it. And I'll show you some examples of that in just a second. It covers 8 states. And the road itself was decommissioned as a federal highway in 1985. So what we're looking at in terms of historical resource is a 60-year period. So those that prime time period in American history between 1926 and 1985. But during that historical period, there are 3,000 historic properties that represent transportation during that time. We ask this question a lot: what makes Route 66 so special? After all, it is just a highway, and we've got many highways in our country. We've got many highways that cross in many different directions. Many existed during the same time period, but what is it about Route 66 that makes it so special? And for Americans, it's that mythology that we identify in ourselves as a Western expanding, as a frontier nation, freedom-loving, affluent, mobile society. We see that in many of the elements of Route 66. And for us as Americans, that mythology we built around ourselves is exemplified along the road. In many areas of Route 66, you really do see that continuity of historical travel, from wagon road to railroads to automobiles. Route 66 was used extensively in this 20th century for Western travel. Include many elements of our history in Western migration in the 20th century. During the Great Depression in the 1930s, the Dust Bowl migration from Oklahoma and Arkansas and the Texas Panhandle to California. Mobilization during World War II and mobilization towards the Pacific Theater. Many soldiers traveled down Route 66 to get to debarkation points in California. And certainly Western migration in 20th century America was exemplified across Route 66. So during that 60-year time period of significance, it really represents the social and the economic and the technological change that occurred in the Western United States. And as with all historic routes and historic corridors, it's a wonderful way to explore our country and all the other routes, because it takes people where they would not normally go if they were trying to explore America. There are other elements that make it important. Very early on in the road's development, there was a very strong boosterism feeling, a very strong promotional aspect to Route 66. There were organizations along the road that promoted travel. People would follow Route 66, and they'd follow it because there were strong advocacy groups along the road that tried to bring traffic to their communities to raise opportunities for economic development. Route 66 was a tourism route. It brought people into the Southwest. It brought them to our national parks. The Grand Canyon is along the route. Petrified Forest National Park is along the route. The destination of California and Disneyland and Hollywood. These are iconic features in American mythology that brought people west, and they often followed Route 66. But most important for raising that mythology around Route 66 and making it special was the idea that it was really incorporated in so many of the arts in 20th century America and internationally, in music, in literature, in cinema, and in TV and other types of arts, Route 66 had a central part in promoting that myth of traveling down Route 66, enjoying the resources and the sites associated with travel on the historic highway. So what do you see when you travel down Route 66 today? And for us, and I represent a federal entity working on Route 66, our most important aspect of our work, of course, is working on preserving the historic properties. And I'll give a quick tour of what you would see if you were traveling down Route 66, and what are the most important elements. Many of the sites I'm going to show you are really significant within the world of Route 66 and what people want to see when they travel on the road. We know that from surveys, but they're also threatened resources. They've been identified for their significance, but also because they're threatened resources. And so whether it's urbanization or abandonment, these are the types of things that we're working to try and preserve to give people that authentic experience of traveling on Route 66. Most importantly is the road itself. And for many people, traveling on original pieces of concrete that were laid down in the 1920s and 1930s is one of the most important elements of traveling on Route 66. Whether it's the Ribbon Road in Miami, Oklahoma, which is a road which is only 9 feet wide, and you won't see it anywhere else except in the section of Ribbon Road in Oklahoma. That's an incredible destination point for people that are traveling along the road. And it's amazing to come across this and to see international travelers in this little piece of very rural Oklahoma, and people just have that attachment to getting on the Ribbon Road. And you see other segments here of road, original road from Route 66. I talked about walking on sections that are not accessible. You see here a picture of abandoned road. This is from Petrified Forest National Park in Arizona. A beautiful section of the road which has now been kind of returned to its natural state. You don't see pavement there, but you can actually follow the road for miles. And all you see now is what looks like a traditional trail, an indentation on the landscape, but a tremendous way to explore and get that feeling of the sensations as you're walking across the landscape in western Arizona. Bridges are a really important part of the Route 66 experience. And you see here several beautiful examples of the type of bridges that draw people to seeing this unique aspect of engineering on road development from the 1920s and 1930s. Neon signs. For most people, when they visualize Route 66, they think of the signs, and especially at night when they're lit up, it's just an amazing sight to be, especially in urban areas where you see just lines of signs that are very evocative of traveling during the 1920s and the 30s, the 50s and the 60s. And as I'll show in a little while, preservation and restoration of neon signs has become one of our primary focuses, just because it's such an attractive part for visitors to experience those along the trail. Of course, the buildings, the many different types of roadside architecture are critically important aspects of traveling on Route 66. And here you get some of the crazy things, the idiosyncratic things that people want to see, are those things that are very evocative of a certain type of lifestyle, a certain type of time period, a certain type of regional identity of the buildings, the restaurants along Route 66. And they span the gamut of very traditional types of coffee shops in Chicago. You see that there, Lou Mitchell's, to the very idiosyncratic regional areas like the Museum Club in Flagstaff, Arizona, Delgadillo Snow Cap in Seligman, Arizona, kind of a classic stop. And it's amazing, this tiny little shake shop here in Arizona. If you'll come by, you'll see buses and buses of international tourists that need to stop at Delgadillo's to get a snow cone or something like that, which raises an issue which we were talking about while Nava was talking about these beautiful sites along the way in Galicia. We have a real problem with capacity and Delgadillo's ability to service these thousands of people that come every day to stop at the Snowcap restaurant. The motels, of course, are a wonderful aspect of Route 66, and Here's another area where you get that amazing regional idiosyncrasies of different types of structures that you won't see over the landscape anymore. Time has passed these by, but because they're part of that important aspect of Route 66, they've kind of enjoyed a rejuvenation of interest. And 30 years ago, they were fading into obscurity. Now they're facing the same issue of capacity and being able to serve the traveling public that wants that evocative experience of Route 66. Gas stations, of course, are a wonderful piece of architecture along the road. And here you just get an example of a couple that have been restored. And they're unique features along the entire road. And of course, the attractions. These are the wackiest of all the types of things you see on Route 66. Most of them aren't functioning anymore, but we've invested considerable time in helping people to restore them and to make them items that are destination spots for travelers along the road. And indeed, many people, when they travel along the road, they need to have their picture taken with the blue whale. They need to have their picture taken next to the Twin Arrows, because that shows that touchstone to that part of history. So what do we do in the National Park Service? To answer your question, what does the National Park Service have to do with Route 66? Well, in 1999, Congress established our program, which was the Route 66 Corridor Preservation Program, and it was a 10-year program. It was reauthorized in 2009 that speaks specifically of collaboration with partners to provide technical and limited financial assistance to focus attention on the long-term sustainable preservation of the most representative and significant resources of the corridor. And the partnership is broad. We in the federal government have very limited authorities to actually do things along the road to provide any kind of legal structures or corridor definition. So it really is based on the partnership that we can bring to helping to develop and preserve these sites. And the partnership is broad. You can see there it includes many different types of entities, from local business owners all the way up to state and congressional legislators, and everything in between. We have a very strong volunteer culture in the United States, and volunteer organizations are a very important part of keeping that movement alive and working with their local legislatures to make sure that there is support for preservation and advocacy and promotion along the road. Here are just a couple examples of the type of thing that we do in our office and within our program. We have a limited amount of financial assistance available every year, approximately $100,000 that we spread across almost 3,000 miles of road. And here's a classic example of the type of thing we do with preserving signs. And it really is amazing the number of requests we get every year to promote sign preservation. But it's just an amazingly successful effort to kind of relight Route 66. The Mill Restaurant, an amazing site in Illinois. That's iconic site on Route 66. And you can see there we've, over multiple years, we've invested approximately $20,000. It was matched by local contributions by a local volunteer group that purchased this restaurant that was falling apart, but they knew it was a destination site on Route 66 and people wanted to visit it and enjoy it. And so they initiated this project to restore the restaurant and make it a destination site again on Route 66. The Wagon Wheel Motel Restoration Project, multiple years again, $60,000 over 3 years. It restored an old classic motor court along Route 66. And these aren't huge amounts of money, but they're seed money that helps local communities to get involved in that restoration and preservation and advocacy effort. The Acadia Round Barn, an attraction along the route. It has nothing to do with actual transportation history, but it's a site where people love to have their picture taken next to, and they drive it as a destination to be next to the Round Barn in Oklahoma. So it was falling apart in the 1970s, and another volunteer group got together and put together a broad coalition of partners and restored the site, and now it's kind of restored to that destination along Route 66 where American and international travelers love to stop at the Round Barn and identify it as one of those sites, those iconic sites along Route 66. So what are the other things we're doing? And for me, this is probably one of the most important things we're doing now as we turn to other methods of reaching out to groups along the road. And really, it's my vision is that that maybe 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, everyone finds their story on Route 66. There's a story that can be told for all interest groups, all people that experience that time period in American history or want to understand that time period in American history. We're working with a university, with Harvard University right now, to develop a broader understanding of the African-American experience on Route 66. It was far different than the mythology of the affluent traveler on Route 66 enjoying all the resources. It was quite different for African Americans. Elements of it were similar, but elements of it were also very challenging. And providing this element of that part of history is an important part of what we're involved with now. The same thing for the Latino experience and the Hispanic American experience. It went through the Southwest United States, and it went through many Latino communities. But that story is often lost. So we're focusing attention through the University of New Mexico on the Latino experience. Women on Route 66. Women worked on Route 66 in the Harvey houses, in the cafes. Women traveled the road. And it's another element of the story that is often forgotten and needs to be better explored. And that story needs to be told. And finally, Route 66 goes through 25 American Indian nations. In the United States, American Indian nations are semi-autonomous, dependent nations, and they control their own territories, reservations. And Route 66 goes through 25 of those nations. And it's a story that's fascinating, but is told from multiple different dimensions and multiple different voices. So one of the most important things we've done recently began in 2014, and it's turned into a larger project, was to develop a travel guide to provide what we call first voice interpretation of the road, of what the experience was like for Native Americans along Route 66 and traveling through Route 66. And this has resulted in a guide that was developed by the individual nations contributing in a broad partnership to tell that story and to provide people traveling on the road with information about where they can stop in the nations to actually understand, say, Hopi culture or Navajo culture or Pueblo culture, and understand how Route 66 had an impact on that culture during its time of significance, and also how the individual Indian nations interacted with travelers along the road. This is available in printed format and also in digital format, and we're working on developing a touring app that people can use on their phones, on their smartphones, so that they can actually in real time be directed to tribal cultural centers along the road and to other attractions such as casinos and other types of things, historic sites in tribal nations. So it gives another aspect of the Route 66 experience. Thank you very much. I'm now 10 minutes into your lunch hour, so.
Now, you're going to love this. Come on.
Oh, my.
Are you ready?
I said we didn't have a video, but we do have a song.
Right, you ready? 1, 2, 3. If you ever plan a motor west, travel my way, take the highway that is best. Get your kicks on Route 66. It winds from Chicago to LA, more than 2,000 miles all the way. Get your kicks on Route 66. Now you go through St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, and Oklahoma City is mighty pretty. You see Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Barstow, San Bernardino. Once you get hip, this tiny tip when you take the California trip, get
Your
big
ticks
on Route 66.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're doing the cabaret later on. But we've got 5 minutes. We've got 5 minutes, and we've got wonderful people here. And this is a bit of an advert for your show tomorrow. But this gentleman here, we haven't talked about the Silk Road. Silk Road tomorrow? Silk Road tomorrow. Most wonderful route in the world that I love. You love it so much, you ran the whole length of the Silk Road.
Yes.
Why?
Because it's a good way to...
Do you understand that in Bulgarian? Yes? He ran from China to Germany.
No, from Germany to China.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Different way.
Much easier, Germany.
Much easier. It goes down.
Much easier. Oh. But why?
Because I like to break down prejudice, the bad thinking about other countries, because we are full of that in the world. And the only way you can break down prejudice is show the reality of the people. So I design a format and a own structure of that. And it's not the Silk Road the important key. The important key is there's so many places in the world we can go by this idea. And I just start with the Silk Road. But when I come to Bulgaria, I told you yesterday I was running here exactly on this reason. And with this format, we could show live the people's life. Like we talk with you and we show her live and we say, this is a person from this country, this is what we're doing here. Hey, see, they are nice to us, they not kidnap us, they give us nice food, and we survive. So that's basically, I think, from tourism perspective, the more initiatives like that you have, the more awareness you get for countries. They be in a bad reputation without a reason, because most of the bad reputation comes from 10 years, 15 years, 20 years ago.
Yep. Wonderful. So what time you want tomorrow?
I think it's 9 or 10.
9? 9? 9?
10. Maybe 10.
But tomorrow morning you could...
He have a paper, it's written.
Oh, right. Tomorrow morning, though, we can hear all about this wonderful run.
Yes.
Okay.
And I give also some numbers about the impact for how many people you reach and change the mind.
Thank you so much. But do you see the common thing? You had people, didn't you? All the way up. People. You had people all over the Mediterranean, all doing their separate thing. But what you've done is pull them together. Is that right?
Yes. It's, the way to develop this idea is to involve more people as possible. People that arrive by the time, and people that are ready to host, to give their welcome to the people. So this is the interaction that is magic tourism that created the dialogue between the people.
And you had, Murray, 96.5% of locals thought it was a good idea.
Yes, because they can take the benefits of the restorations of our history patrimony, and also they know a lot of people from over the world. Sincerely, we can reach other cultures, conserve our and meet people. I think it's the most important.
So do I. And you had people, you had volunteers. You've given us such a nice view of America, which we don't often see. Sorry, but we haven't mentioned him yet. But volunteers, people helping you because you can't look after 3,000 miles of road on $100,000.
No, that's a really important thing for us is raising local awareness and raising the local power of communities to participate in this effort. As John said, the road is 3,000 miles long. Our office, we have, in our staff, we have maybe 20 people, and we administer 9 National Historic Trails. Multiply that by so many thousands of miles, it ends up being 25,000 miles. This is not a federal effort. It's a partnership effort. It's a collaborative effort across the length of all of the roads. And fortunately, we have a very strong volunteer effort behind each of the road elements in each of the states. And that's really what makes the success of the program, is just raising that local awareness and that volunteerism, and getting all of the other business owners to involve in having that larger vision that they are part of something larger than just that local business. It's something that connects them, a business owner in Kansas to a business owner in Texas, a business owner in Arizona. Having this connectivity along the road and along a stretch of road that would not normally be attached to each other, would not normally have that connectivity, but because of the road or the trail, they have supporters down the road. So it's that connection of individuals and of people along the road is critical to success of preservation, advocacy, and mobilization of funding resources.
Wonderful story. You had to mention you're not allowed to do the whole of your lecture for tomorrow.
No. But there is one thing what I like in all your stories. It starts with 1 or 2 or maybe 10 people. They go a track, they drive a road or whatever, and then others follow. And just last week I get information there's a group of 60 people of Germans, they want to run to China again.
They want to run?
Yeah.
Are you going again?
Oh, sure, I will join them. Sure.
Do you just do it again?
Yeah, sure. Then we make something like the Camino.
Wonderful. Come stand up for a minute. I want to introduce you to this lady. Why? Because she saw your conference was happening from her home in Kerala on the west coast of India. You know why Kerala's famous, ladies? Because ladies run Kerala. Land, if you want to transfer land in Kerala, it is woman to woman. No men included. That's right? Yes?
I wish it's completely right.
But it's some right. 98% female ability to read.
Yes, we have a very high literacy rate there. Yes, compared to the other parts of the country, I think, yes, we are in a much developed state right now.
What was it that made you think you want to make your first international trip all the way from Kerala, I'm not going to pronounce the name of the town because it's impossible, to Sofia? What was it? You saw roots? Do you think maybe that's something we can do in Kerala?
Honestly speaking, I'm into a venture. I'm incubating my venture where environment-friendly travelers can make reservations in eco-friendly vacation rentals. So any business for that, you need to plan well. So I saw that there's a lot of planning coming up along the Silk Route. It's probably going to be a very super hit trend in the entire tourism industry. So I thought I should penetrate right at the planning stage, where if I could meet even the Secretary General of UNWTO and tell him that, sir, when you plan, when you develop, it should be a sustainable model. It should respect the planet and the people. So I thought I should just line up.
I suspect all these people behind you, yes, absolutely. I suspect all these people behind you would agree with that. Is that right? I know it sounds silly, but even your highway, stay there. Even your highway is an old highway. It's something that you're looking after. It's a bit like a museum highway. You're not bulldozing thousands of tons of forest.
Oh no, it's the idea of using the highway sensibly and trying to manage capacity issues so that it can be sustainable, but also does not impact the environment more is a real important component of what we're trying to do. It's a living road also. It's the people that live on the road still consider it part of their everyday life. And so there's a vested interest in keeping it as a sustainable resource and as an economic lifeline for families and community.
You don't have this problem because people walk.
The people reach to want our customs, our tradition, and understand perfectly that we have the nature and we have to maintain the heritage we have to maintain. And in fact, we did this survey, this study, to comprove, to check that we are prepared to receive more people, but in the sustainable way. Because if not, is and success is, for us, it's very important to have in our core the sustainable, the nature, and in fact we have 9 way more than the people can choose. And then I think it's important not to overcrowding.
So you spread the load, but how important is it to you? I mean, your visitors, they don't bother, do they? They have to swim around your route.
Effectively, the particularity of the Phoenicians route is that our route is the sea, but we work especially on the land. So in this case, our goal is to create sustainability strategies. It means that we work at little level with the little communities that have to develop the heritage. We are only few destinations that have the problem of the sustainability, but in this case, they don't ask us more tourists, they ask us more quality in cultural tourism in their place. So our is as a message for the people. There is another way to do tourism, more sustainable, more creative, more involved with the local communities. So we are ready to develop this model in other countries. For example, in this moment, we haven't Bulgaria in our network. So if there are some organizations in Bulgaria interested, we are ready to have a contact to see.
Thanks a lot. So are you... You come all the way from Kerala. Is that because you're worried about what tourism can do to a destination? You're a very popular destination, aren't you? You're the only place in the whole of India my wife wants to go to. But are you worried about the effect of tourism? You have a lot of tourists in Kerala.
Yes, Kerala is popular as God's own country. And God's own country faced terrible floods after 100 years. So I run homestays in Kerala. So that was my source of income. And to bring up this business, I was looking at those funds, and floods washed away my business and the lives of a lot of people. And I thought this is the right time I should act. And I would like to bring in one more point. Yes, I didn't answer your question. I am really worried. And I'm not a person who can afford to actually come all the way from India and just attend a conference and just, have fun and go back. Right now, I have my 1.5-year-old son who's back home with a bacterial infection on his face. I just got the news and I think I'm speaking the right words. So these are certain things which we are facing every day. Every woman in this room would agree with me on that. And tourism is another way in which we can do a lot of things in women empowerment. I would like the officials here from UNWTO to handhold with UN Women, because as a woman, if you ask me, I'm an entrepreneur. Tourism has given me a lot of flexibility in doing my work properly. I don't have office hours. I don't need an office. My phone is my office. So these are very, very ordinary things, but which is very important for me to build up my life. And when it comes to community, I think women play a very important role in bringing in beauty, bringing in meaning into what we experience as a tourist. I would give a small example if I have time. I came into Bulgaria reading a lot about the place. And one nice thing which I saw on one of the websites was that generally everything is fine, but there are people who violate the peace and tranquility of a society. So you must expect such incidents also, which is a very nice thing for information on the website. It is being honest. Second thing is that I've made reservation in a house where there's a husband and a wife. So the presence of the wife has given me confidence in making that reservation. So the transfer of money from my bank account to his bank account happened purely because there's a lady in the house. I think that's also significant when we plan.
It's the power of women. Thank you so much. I think we'll all be remembering what you said. Thanks a lot. Thank you. I spot Greece. Yeah, Greece is here. Greece is here.
I can speak for half an hour.
I know. Well, you're Greek. All Greeks can speak for half an hour. Does this thing of roots, and we've veered into the environment, for somebody, you're in many ways a mass tourism destination. Does that, and you know, much of your tourism is to small islands. Is there something? Is this an area that you're worried about, the environment of Greece? And certainly climate change, which we haven't mentioned, because
if I start from the climate change, yes, we know that it exists. I mean, some years ago when we had the perfect autumn, fall, and then we had the perfect winter, and then the perfect spring and summer. Now the seasons are changing dramatically, and now you have, of course, we don't have floods the way that other places on Earth they have, but still we had floods. 22 people were drowned with a flood in Attica region last year. So the climate change is there. And in the summer, when we had some very, very devastating fires, forest fires in Mati, 99 people were burned, like we see now in California. At the same time, the next day of the disaster, there were floods in Athens. So we experienced the climate change. It is a matter of concern. Regarding the mass tourism development, still, of course, we have during the summer seasons, but this is the reason why we have 33 million tourists, so we need to accommodate them, so we extended the tourist season. We found some new destinations, emerging destinations in Greece, not the popular ones, as I mentioned, like in Crete, in the Chalkidiki, in the islands, Mykonos, Santorini. We have the Epirus region, 20% each year increase, winter sports and monasteries, Byzantine architecture. We have the Peloponnese, that we have Mykene and Argos and Nafplion. We have Messenia, the airports that are new. Actually, 25,000 visitors some years ago, 125 visitors last summer in Kalamata, in Messenia. So what we did in our strategy, and we succeeded in that, is to extend the season, to find new destinations, and to find new products. And also, of course, to increase our capacity, to increase our hotel beds. 26,000 new 4- and 5-star hotel beds in the last 2 years.
And perhaps spread the load a bit? Maybe something like this, Greek routes.
Yeah, well, the best route that we have actually, which is not very cultural, is the classic marathon route, which is a global, you know. Yeah. I know.
He could run a marathon in about 10 minutes.
And we have the ultra marathon that you can start from Sparta going to Athens, and maybe we have. I mean, we don't have such a distance in Greece to travel from China, from Germany to China. But if you start from Kalamata, you can go to Alexandroupolis, and then. Yes. Bike tourism.
Could you repeat that because the translators didn't hear it?
Okay. Yes, bike tourism. Bike tourism. It's a little. I mean, we need to promote, especially in the cities when we have new bicycle ways in the cities. It's not that friendly to be in Athens, to tell you the truth. But there are other cities, like in Larissa, I think. Larissa, it's in the northern part, Trikala, that they have an extended network of bicycle routes, and especially, you know. One of the reasons that someone certainly would come to Greece is that we have 350 or 320 to 50 days of sun. So it's, and this was one, last week I was in Paris to try to persuade investors to come and buy land or hotels. And at the end I told them, if you're not convinced yet, I will tell you that now it's 27 degrees in Athens, and now in Paris you have 7. So, I mean, you cannot resist that. So it's...
Thank you very much indeed. And I think we actually did mention routes. Did you sorry, East London phrase. Did you understand the minister from Bulgaria this morning when she says we are becoming a 4-season destination? seasonality, self-imposed poison in the tourism industry. Absolutely unnecessary, yes? We would love to come to Greece in February as much as we are, actually maybe more than we would in August. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much. And any questions before we go back to Afghanistan? No? You're all terribly quiet. Oh, right. Wonderful. And hang on one second. Ah, God, I knew I was going to ask you a question. Here's a student from Bulgaria who has come stand up. Come on. She didn't want to ask a question, so that's why I'm here. And you've just done your MA in tourism.
Not really. I did an MA in World Heritage Studies some time ago in Germany.
In World Heritage Studies in Germany? Get that? Okay, fine. And as a result of that, have you heard something this afternoon that you think would help Bulgaria? Can we develop more routes? Can we get people away from the coast, maybe out into the countryside?
Yeah, I found it very useful. I've been very interested in this topic, actually. I liked a lot the last presentation with some recommendations, but also the previous two. I think there are some countries more tradition in this, so there is what to learn, and I guess that's the objective of this conference, after all, to exchange ideas and get better opinions and apply them here. So hopefully soon we will develop more and become more famous abroad.
The object of conferences is to hear things, have a good idea, and then go and do it.
Exactly. Yeah?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Can I say thank you on behalf of us all to Antonia? Thank you very much. We'll go swimming in the Phoenician routes. I'm going walking. Nobody talks about, and when you go to these big travel exhibitions, anybody talk about walking? Huge market that's totally ignored. Absolutely totally ignored by the big travel business, but very, very good for somebody like you, because we're all walkers. Thank you. So thank you so much to Antonio. Thank you to Maria. And thank you, because you've got a wonderful voice, to Aaron for Route 66. And in that way, do we have any messages, Chris? Except be here at what time in the morning? Oh, are you on after me? Come on. Sorry, I've kept you. Ah, right. He didn't tell you yet, but we were just going off for a beer afterwards. Yeah, he's invited. He's paying, because he's the tradition is that the local journalist pays. You see.
Only if you sing again.
But thank you very much. I'm sorry to have kept you for our overrun.
Oh, no, it's been great. You did a great job. Ladies and gentlemen, give applause to John Bell. He's an amazing host. Ms. Dominguez, Mr. Mar, and Dr. Barone for their great presentations and for this surprisingly entertaining panel. And interesting as well, of course, but I didn't expect for all of them to be singing here, which is amazing. My name is Nicky Liff. As I said, I'm a film director, but now we're going to see the whole short movie on the request of the Deputy Minister of Tourism from Afghanistan, and then we're going to close the first day.
Can you switch off the light?
Yeah, is it possible to switch off the light? Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, enjoy it.
In the heart of Central Asia is an ancient land. For thousands of years, home to one of the most traveled highways of the world, the Silk Road. At its crossroads, Afghanistan. It was the nexus of ideas and trade between East and West. A land that lured travelers from afar. Chinese pilgrim Xuanzang described its fertile valleys and giant Buddhist statues. Venetian explorer Marco Polo wrote of a land rich with gold and gems. It was battled over by powerful conquerors, from Alexander the Great to Genghis Khan. It gave rise to amazing civilizations and a kaleidoscope of people and cultures. But in the past 3 decades, the Soviet invasion, internal fighting, and war with the Taliban have devastated this country. The National Museum of Kabul, with its extraordinary collection of Silk Road antiquities, was bombed. Afghanistan's ancient cultural legacy destroyed.
It was a fabulous museum. It had Roman period artifacts, Greek period artifacts, Buddhist artifacts, Islamic artifacts. It was really the museum of the Silk Road, and it was empty.
They demolished a huge portion of our statues, which unfortunately is a great loss of the ancient cultures of our country.
But then, in 2003, an incredible discovery. Hidden vaults within the presidential palace, revealing stunning antiquities once thought lost forever. Thanks to a group of courageous Afghans who risked their lives, one of the most significant collections of our ancient world survived.
All of a sudden, Afghans were given back their heritage. You could see that sense of claiming their place in history and in the world.
The objects reveal an amazing mix of diverse cultures, beginning more than 4,000 years ago. Early settlers from the Bronze Age made their homes in village forts along rivers across Central Asia, living a simple life of hunting, farming, tending fields, and livestock. Archaeological excavations revealed evidence of camels, goats, and even hedgehogs. These settlers were part of an ancient civilization that traded ideas and goods with people as far away as Mesopotamia, India, and the northern steppes. An exchange that had surprising results. At the Bronze Age site of Tepe Folol, archaeologists uncovered astonishing artifacts. A gold bowl adorned with exotic designs from distant places. The bearded bull is Mesopotamian in style. And a golden goblet. The geometric motif can be traced back more than 7,000 years. As the early silk routes developed, rumors spread of rivers rich with gold and mountains bursting with gems. Irresistible splendor that lured traders and invaders from far and wide. Among them, Alexander the Great, who swept across Central Asia nearly 2,500 years ago, overtaking the Persian Empire and inspiring the building of massive Greek cities across the land. One of the largest was Ai-Khonum, meaning Lady Moon. A vast, sophisticated city stretching across acres of land. On the palace, a roofline with terracotta decorations in traditional Greek style. And within the ruins of the gymnasium, a pillared statue Its face is probably that of the director of the school. Iconium was lost to time until 1961, when its discovery marked the first ancient Greek city found in Central Asia. French archaeologists, led by Paul Bernard, spent nearly 15 years uncovering thousands of artifacts. Some clearly revealing a Greek design, yet others a unique blend of cultures. A gilded silver plate from the 3rd century BC is a mix of Greek and West Asian influences. The chariot is Syrian in style and driven by Nike, the winged goddess of victory. Excavations abruptly halted in 1979 when the Soviets invaded. This historic site over the past 3 decades has been completely destroyed by looting and bombing. In the 1st and 2nd centuries, trade along the Silk Road flourished, especially in Begram, a booming city at the crossroads with connections to India, China, and the Roman Empire. In 1937, French archaeologist Joseph Haquin and his team uncovered 2 hidden rooms filled with a stunning mix from east to west. Mediterranean bronzes, enamel glassware from Egypt, Greco-Roman plaster reliefs, carved ivory and bone from India. Ivory panels depict daily scenes from women's living quarters and decorated elaborate thrones. Was this the royal treasure of Kushan kings? Offerings from nomad caravans seeking passage? Or the commercial stash of prosperous traders? It's still a mystery. In 1978, near the Bactrian town of Tilia Tepe, another extraordinary discovery. Russian archaeologist Viktor Saryanidi was exploring the ruins of an ancient temple when he unearthed a hidden burial site. Excavations revealed the graves of a warrior and 5 princesses adorned with gold. The warrior's head rested on a golden bowl. He wore an ornate belt with medallions of men riding panthers. Daggers and a sword declare his royal status, and shoe buckles of gold and turquoise his wealth. On one princess is a royal crown with a unique design. It collapses into 6 separate pieces for easy traveling. Perhaps they were a family of noble nomads. But where did they come from? And why were they buried here? Months of digging reveal thousands of objects with a unique mix of Greek, Bactrian, and Persian design. This Greek goddess of love, Aphrodite, has an Indian beauty mark on her forehead and the wings of a Bactrian god. The detail and craftsmanship of each object is remarkable, all created from gold and gems found in this area and made by local artists.
And the art is really unique. It kind of stunned the world because it showed that there was great richness right here in Afghanistan.
A richness that reveals a new idea of what the life and lifestyle were at that time.
Obviously, they were a lot more cosmopolitan than we might think of what people were like in the 1st century AD.
This and many other windows to our past would have been lost if not for the courageous actions of the Afghans who took great risks to protect the contents of the National Museum.
A nation stays alive when its culture stays alive. Our people should know what happened. They should know about their culture, about their history.
They believed in the importance of Afghanistan's ancient heritage and its significance to the world.
I want to thank the Deputy Minister of Tourism of Afghanistan for showing us this important film. Thank you so much. I want to thank this wonderful moderator, John Bell, who did an amazing job for this afternoon panel. It was really great. Thank you. And that's the end of the first day of this Congress. Please join us tomorrow at 9:30, and when we're going to hear and see the incredible story of Kai Marcus. He's going to be here. And you can attend the farmers market at the Santiago Center. Yes? You want to say something? Okay, please do. Come up on stage. Yeah.
Thank you so much for giving us this time for show you this movie. The total number of these golden pieces are 2,618. But we choose a part of these golden for a kind of mobile museum. And they are going to different countries of the world. I opened personally our museum in Melbourne of Australia. And now it is in China. Just I came here to say, if any countries wanted to have this mobile museum in their country, they can give us their formal request, and a little bit we have a high grantee for this when it's going to each country, and we hope that we can show this golden museum to all people of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said, this is all for today. We're going to be waiting for you tomorrow here at 9:30. Have a nice evening. Thank you. Thank you once again.